Hello, hello. We're
Hello.
live and back.
Hi, everyone.
We've got Richie definitely has a scary story, probably the scariest thing that's ever happened to him. And he's going to give us some details, not a little bit of everything, um, because that story's in your book, Richie, and you don't want
Yes,
to give away all the goodies.
right.
So why don't you tell us a bit about the scariest event that's ever happened? Like now, you also said though that this event made you step away from the paranormal for a while. Like it's that scary.
It made me leave for 5 or 6 years almost. I wouldn't even watch anything come on TV. I might turn it off. I don't want to watch it. Somebody would bring up um certain places. I'm like, nope, I don't want to hear about it. I'm done. Like it's not for me. Obviously, we know that's not true now. But so um to set the scene for everybody, this event did take place at the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield. Um, so it was July. They had, I don't know if they still do it or not, but they used to have a party twice a year for the volunteers. They had a summer party and a Christmas party. And so this happened during the July party. Um, During that party, they would, after everybody got done eating and everything, they would let the volunteers go and do free investigation as like a thank you for everything we did up to that point for the year. Well, obviously, I'm not missing out on a free investigation, especially at the reformatory. So I had all my stuff and I was ready to go. So we had some stuff happen. What happened, the thing that made me walk away was actually toward the end of my night. I had investigated for like 4 or 5 hours up to this point. So I had a lot happen. Um, but at one point we decided we were going to the west attic, which is above the west cell block. Um, we walked in, we were seeing shadows here and there, which didn't surprise anybody. We were all there long enough to know that you see shadows in random places anyway. But they used the attic as overflow for prisoners, when they had entirely too many. Anybody who investigates with me or knows anything about my investigation style knows that I love to use dowsing rods. So I had my rods out and was asking the typical yes and no questions. Is anybody here? All the stereotypical BS. And what I like to do also is, can you point my rods to wherever you're standing? So they're pointing ahead of us to I'm trying to do directions here. I have my book here. I could actually read straight from this, and I actually planned on it, but when do I ever go with what I planned on doing? Um, to the left. I'm remembering it was to the left when you walk in the attic. And I say, okay, I'm going to walk towards you. I want you to cross the rods when we get to where you're at. So we're walking. We got all the way to the very back, and we get to this big door, and we were all afraid that we were going to have to go behind that door. Nobody likes going in that room. But I'm like, I stop at the door because my rods haven't crossed yet, and I'm like, oh no. Like, I'm going to ask the question that none of us want the answer to. And I say, are you in this area behind this door? And they crossed. So for me, crossed is yes. Then I have them uncross them, and they either push them apart or leave them apart for no. So they uncrossed, and I was like, all right, so I'm going to go in. When I got in there, I was like, now lead me to you, because it's narrow, but you have like the staircase right inside that goes up to this little room. And then you have a narrow hallway that goes around. And when I say narrow, I mean I could fit in there now, but I almost had to walk sideways back then because I was so much bigger. But so the rods pointed that I needed to go down that little teeny tiny thing. So I'm like, well, Lord, I'm going to do it. So I went back there and they crossed, and I said, cool, so we're here. And I'm like, okay, this area is too small for me to stand, so I'm going back out to the bigger part on the other side. You can come over there and talk to us. So I'm standing there. My friend is on the other side of me. He's closest to the door, so probably on my right. And I feel him tap my shoulder, and I'm like, what? He's like, just reach around and tell me what you feel. So I reached around him, and it was about 10 degrees at least colder. Now, to set up July in the reformatory, whatever it is outside, I believe it was 90 degrees that day, but whatever it is outside, you can guarantee it's going to be 10 to 15 degrees hotter inside. So the attic was every bit of 100 degrees. So that cool air, first of all, we're on a ghost hunt, so we're more than happy that something's drawing heat out of the air, because we're going to get a manifestation at this point. But also, now we're cooling down, right? You'd think that that would be the best thing in the world. So I pull my arm back to me, and I told him, it's colder over there. And before I finished that, whatever it was started to circle us. And the only word that I can think to describe what happened was a vortex. It trapped us. We were trapped in this cold air. It was swirling around us like a tornado. We were stuck there. Ooh, sorry, I'm starting to shake talking about it. I couldn't move my feet. It felt like forever to even say anything out loud. But when you're in those situations, it's probably only a few seconds, but it feels like an eternity. But I remember at some point I was able to scream for help, which what good that was going to do, I didn't know, but that's your natural reaction. And I seen our friends who were out in the main part, because they refused to go back in that area with us. I seen one of their flashlights, and the thing swirled around us one more time and then went up the stairway to nowhere. That's what we call it, because it just goes up into like brick. So I know it doesn't sound that scary, but for me, at the time, I was hanging out with people that had me drinking. I was doing, I was on cocaine, I was on pills, I was smoking weed, I was drinking like all the time. My mental health was crap, obviously. I was young. I didn't know how to control my gifts whatsoever, so I was wide open to everything that could possibly happen, which I now know better. But for me, that was terrifying, because I realized that at that moment that this stuff can truly harm you. If you can trap me in a spot and I can't move, that's too much for me. I've been punched, I've been scratched, I've had something try to take me over. Which thanks to Amy Allen, I'm never going to call it taking over again. I'm going to call it something tried to jump me. Same thing, but I just like the way he says it. I've been physically attacked in other ways. I've heard my name called by absolutely nothing. I've had 9-foot tall shadows coming up behind me and calling me a bitch. And I'm okay with that. But when I'm trapped and I can't move, that broke something in my brain. And I absolutely walked away. I told my friend, I'm like, I think we're done for the night. So we go back to the party. We're talking to his mom. We tell her what happened. And she's like, yeah, you guys are done for the night. Go home, both of you. And I'm like, I'm already halfway out the door at this point because I don't want nothing to do with it. So I got home, and as much as I love the reformatory still to this day, when I got home that night, I said to myself, we're going to finish out this tour season and then we're done. I'm not going back. And I'm never planned on going back. If I ever had to drive past the reformatory, I would intentionally look the other way. If it was coming in, if I knew it was going to be in sight, I wouldn't look at it. Because of that, if I was driving past the Bisman building in Mansfield, which is another historically haunted location, I wouldn't look at it. I intentionally looked away. When my friends started trying to tell me what was going on in their house, I'm like, I don't care. I'm sorry. Until you get it under control, I'm not coming back. I will not. If there's paranormal activity here, I won't be. So I walked away. And out of that, and I didn't find this out until last year. Out of that situation, I also gained extreme anxiety, anger issues. I would literally have gone up until April of last year. I went off at the drop of a hat. It didn't take anything to set me off. I was almost 30 years old. I was afraid of the dark. I would not be in the dark. I had a lamp on at all times. And my room at my parents' house I made sure that I was right beside a light switch to the hallway so that before I ever walked out, I could reach around and turn the hallway light on so that I was not in the dark. And when I got downstairs where I wasn't going to have a light, I had a flashlight so that there was some kind of light. Even though I can navigate that house with my eyes closed because I grew up in the house, I still needed as much light as possible. I could not be in the dark. So fast forward to ParaSciCon 2022. I go back to the reformatory, but I'm still scared of the building. I don't want to be there, but I wanted to meet Adam Berry, so I'm like, man up and go. Which I'm glad I did, because that's where I met Greg. And because of Greg, last April, I went back to the reformatory. I went to the West Attic. I went back into that room. And this video can be found on my YouTube channel. But I planted my feet firmly and I went off. I started yelling at whatever was in there. I told it that it was no longer controlling my life. I was tired of being afraid. I remember saying, I'm damn near 30 years old and afraid of the dark, and that's not okay. And, a bunch of choice words, of course, because anybody who knows me knows that I don't care, dead or alive, I'm cussing you out. So, some choice words. And then I remember saying right at the end, if you understand me, make a noise so that I know. And from the area where the spirit had told me it was standing the first time I went in there, I heard a whistle very clearly. So I left out of there at that moment, and I remember I walked that entire prison by myself that night, no lights on at all. I only used my flashlight when I was near some stairs so that I didn't fall on my face. And now I can't get it dark enough. I have to pull my covers over my face to have it dark enough to sleep. I haven't actually gone off on anybody in almost a year. I have gotten a little bit of attitude with them, but I haven't actually gone off on anybody. Which leads me to believe that night, whatever it was, attached itself to me and caused all those issues for me. And I actually ended up after that drinking even more. I got off of the pills and the cocaine and stuff, but I was still drinking very, very heavily. And then after I did what I did last year, where I faced it and I told it that it no longer controlled me, I don't even really have a desire to drink anymore. If I go out to the bar or something, I'll have a couple drinks and then I'm good. I'm like, cool, we're done. Whereas before I would spend entirely too much money, blackout. And this now, if I get a couple, 2, 3 drinks in me, or up to the point that I start feeling it, as soon as I start feeling it, I'm like, nope, give me something else. Give me water, give me Mountain Dew, something. But I'm done drinking for the night. So I absolutely had an attachment from that. But I know when I'm not very good at articulating how very terrified I was that night. And anybody listening might be like, well, that's not that scary. Like, well, to you, maybe. It takes different, I mean, there's different things that freak different people out. And being trapped is a phobia, very much so. And I have it. So when I was trapped and I couldn't go, it broke me. And so I walked away. And then 6 years later, I finally faced it. I thought that I faced it completely, but I learned last week that I didn't. Melissa, I told you a little bit about that before we got on here. I found out last week I haven't completely faced it. So I wanted to share this experience out loud so that maybe now every part of my brain that's still holding on to the fear from that can let it go. Because saying it out loud means that I am acknowledging that I did face it. I mean, let's face the facts that it took a lot. It takes a lot to go back to somewhere that literally broke you and face. I always say that I faced my darkness because that's exactly what it was. And I am a whole different person now. Little things that would have made me mad before I'm like, whatever. Even big things like my ex-coworker who I used to go off on at least twice a week. From April until she left in October, I didn't go off on her one single time. And people, and everybody acknowledges that. They're like, I don't really know what you did, and I don't want to necessarily know, but I'm glad you did. Because you are a whole different person. I mean, even Greg acknowledged last year when he saw me a month after I did that, he's like, you're not the same person that came to see me last year. You're completely different. And that was because I did what I did. And the only thing that remains is I cannot at all be in quiet. If it's quiet, I can't do that. My heart rate starts going up the second it's quiet for more than 10 seconds. So, I thought that was going to take longer, but I also didn't go into every detail of the night because, like we said, it is in my book. So if you do want the full details of that night, you'll have to buy my book and read it for yourself. But
So Chair says it's a very legitimate phobia, the whole being trapped. She said you were strong and amazing to fight it. And Larry says, proud of you for facing it. It's very difficult to do. Positive spirits feed off energy, evil feeds off fear. Protection and the most important tool for the person who communicates. So,
well, thank you guys for that.
I mean, Ebony, do you have anything that's scary?
My scariest experience that I probably went through, I'm not sure if it's echoing for anybody else or if I just hear it. So in the comments, I guess let us know if you can understand me. But so I've always kind of heard voices and stuff like that. So ever since I was a kid, I really, actually a lot like Richie, and this still kind of continues on, but like really, really did not like the dark. Didn't like even being on like a floor of my house by myself. So like, let's say, I wanted to shower in the bathroom upstairs. I'd make my sister sit in her room upstairs. So I knew that there was like someone up there. And I didn't really know what the fear was like coming from until I got older and had a child of my own and saw a lot of the same things happening with him and was like, okay, like I was kind of having experiences and not realizing it. So that was really scary for me. My personal scariest experience, I'm really not sure if it was just a dream or actually an experience, but it was terrifying nonetheless. But basically could see myself sleeping and seeing like dark hands kind of reaching out from under the bed. So I thought I had like woken up, sprinted to my parents' room to like go get them because I was still a teenager at the time, and saw a dead girl like standing over my parents' bed. So it was like terrifying because I had thought I was awake, so and then as soon as I saw that, it's like snapped back into my body, kind of woke back up. So that was very scary for me. But honestly, my scariest experiences now, unfortunately, are the ones that my son is having. So and it's really scary hearing it come from, a child. So because it's so unfiltered and it's so matter of fact, because he doesn't realize that like it's not a thing everybody experiences. And I will say like, yeah, it's just opened my mind up. So one of the things he said to me when he was about 3 years old, he was telling me there's like this hand hand went like this to my curtain, and then it poked my face, and it keeps touching me and stuff, like this gray hand. So terrifying. Okay, but I'm the one that's supposed to take care of this stuff, right? So I can't be scared. I have to now like be the adult. I'm like looking around for someone to help and realizing like, oh, this is my thing now, right? So and like, you know, I understand that kids have nightmares and stuff like that, but like the fact that a 3-year-old story never ever changed, and he continued to bring it up like months later, that same experience. So like very scary. That's when it started. It's kind of continued progressing. Like the other day he asked me for my black tortellini, as he calls it. It's black tourmaline for those who don't know, but Henry calls it black tortellini. And because he wanted like protection, because he knows that's what I said that it's for. And he goes, because I don't want the nightmares to be able to get near me. And I'm like, what do you mean the nightmares get near you? I said, nightmares are in your head. They're a dream. They can't get near you. And he goes, well, they line up around my bed. So I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, that's terrifying. So yeah, that was probably the scariest thing I ever heard come out of his mouth, was him telling me nightmares are lining up around his bed. So not just he's having nightmares, he's literally seeing them. So little post exactly. It's funny. But yeah, so that's the scariest thing for me. Especially because, you know, it's different when it happens to you, but when it's happening to your child, or, you know, and you feel, I'm glad he's never gotten hurt or anything like that. I think that my ancestors really, you know, funnily enough, Melanie, this is even freakier. And Larry was actually there when this happened. And I'm so not saying spirit did this because like stores warded and stuff, but this is just how my life is, that this happened. I had bought a quince seed for Henry from Marianne and literally lost it probably within 5 minutes. Like, so it couldn't have went anywhere but behind the counter at Goddess Elite. That's the only place I was at. It wasn't in my bag. We've been looking for it for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and we cannot find the quince seed. So Marianne's coming again, I think March 17th. So I'll probably have to grab one from her then. But yeah, he could use it. That's for sure. Larry's informed me he's just opening portals up. So that's great for me. Yeah, he needs a seed charm. Yep. I think my great grandma definitely, who's passed away, by the way, one of my spirit guides, I think she really sticks around and protects him a lot, because he hasn't ever been touched or anything like that, except for the first time that it happened, you know, when he was about 3. So, but I also tell him, I make him a scary go away spray, he calls it. So it's got cloves and all this stuff in it. And I have him spray it around his room and it's really cute. He's like, this is my room, like, scary, go away. This is my room. You can't be in here. He gets really, stands his ground. So that's kind of what I taught him to do. And it seems to be helping a little, but except obviously the nightmare thing.
It says not to compare your child to a pet, but I feel the same when animals see a spirit or apparition, because I know they are too innocent to lie or pretend. It's just not fair. It's just not in their brain. So I really believe them.
Exactly. And I mean, in my house too, my cats like to just scare the absolute crap out of me. It's always when I'm home alone. I think Brandon almost like pushes activity away from the house because of how afraid of it he is. He'd probably kill me if he ever listened to this and saw me putting him on blast, but he does not like this stuff. So, like, he's totally cool with me doing it and like being interested in it, but I mean, he doesn't want it like in the house, which is totally valid. You know what I mean? So, but I feel like almost puts kind of like a shield up, and obviously I have my own wards up too, but yeah, and then the cats though, whenever I'm home alone, they're just like staring into the corner for 5 minutes. Anyone who has seen my cat Hilda knows that she doesn't stay still for more than like 30 seconds at a time. So like when she's doing that, something's up. Like
Karen's like, my darn kids won't wear theirs, meaning the C. She's like, I put them on the back of the license plate and tag their cars. It's such a mom thing.
you're gonna be safe whether you like it or not.
All right. The next step is like sewing it into the seams of the jackets. Make them wear it one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
That is like a whole different level when it's something that happens to you versus like your kid, right? Because Richie, I don't think you have kids yet, unless you have an extra secret. But wait a minute, I had to mute you to stop the echo. Here we go.
Yeah, no, I have my dog. So speaking on that, whenever she starts getting shaky or sees something, I bought white sage spray from the store, and so like I will periodically just spray Luna down with the sage spray and rub it into her, and she usually calms right down after I do that. And I'm like, see, I told you, I'm not going to let anything in the spirit world or the physical world mess with my baby. I will open a can of whoop ass on all of them.
Yeah, Chris, one of our other readers, who does animal communication, says, house is protected with seeds. I also have charms on my horse stalls with seeds in them. Nice. Now, that being said, what Richie does with his puppers is fine. If you have a cat, do not do that.
No.
Cats cannot handle the whole essential oil thing. They're delicate little balls of claws. So their systems just can't process most essential oil like that. Like I said, I don't know if I've really ever had scary. I mean, maybe the closest being in a cemetery behind Fort Campbell, just walking around little family cemeteries off in the woods where there is live artillery. And we just found one, and for some reason I was drawn to this one grave, and we were just kind of standing there talking, and all of a sudden, like, I could not breathe. Like, the wind was taken and was doubled over, couldn't breathe. And the friends that I with literally kind of just like picked me up and like moved me away and was fine. And then I'm like, well, I was conflicted. I was like, well, we need to leave. And then the other part of me was like, I'm going back there. Fuck you. What do you think? And
Melissa, like, you crack me up. So I'm not trying to interrupt you, but you absolutely crack me up that you're like, I haven't really had anything scary happen to me. Just like a ghost literally stole the breath out of my lungs. Like, what?
But a couple of days later, I'm like, you guys want to go back? And they're like, no. And and I'm like, I want to see if it happens again.
You ghost. Oh, that's funny.
Scary in that moment, but not anything that like poor Richie, who's like, F this hobby, F this field, I'm not doing this again. 2 days later, I was like, let's go back. And I'm trying to think. I used to have photos of cemeteries back there, and there was in one of them you could see like the wavy outline of something kind of standing there, and I'm like, well, where is that photo album? Do I still have it? Flip through and see if I could find it. And it would be interesting to go back, but it is like military land, so I'm going to need somebody with a military card to like, sign me on as a guest and go hunt me down. Yeah. Never mind the artillery and the field training exercises, which are probably in reality more scary than anything dead. But but Richie, glad you faced it and got over it. And little one with his tortellini, at least he's got mom who is somewhat experienced. And I say somewhat, right? Because we never know the full extent of anything we're ever going to run into.
So true. Nobody is 100% prepared to deal with anything ever. That's my thought. Like, if you don't have a little bit of just like, doesn't even need to be fear, but like caution is ideal. Don't mess with things that you don't know how to handle. Always ask for help too. Like, we get a lot of people that come in to get rid of spirits and stuff like that. And we recommend the sage, we recommend a lot of different things. And for some, like, that really will do it, does the trick. For some, they can put their quince seeds up and stuff, but there are certain things where it's like, maybe when it's certain extensive, like, I don't know if Marianne still does house calls, but I know Maria, at least at one point did. She's someone that works with us. Like, I'm sure, I know Greg does. No, I don't know if he does cleansings and stuff like that, but just like, get somebody to come in and help. And when I say that, I don't mean a paranormal team that we've talked about where they're going to ramp up the energy, not help you at all, and then say, see you later. I mean someone that's actually going to remove the spirits that are there. So
Yeah.
That-
Oh, Melanie.
Someone like me, though, would be good. Someone who does the paranormal investigations, but will also help and can cleanse your house for you.
Okay, I didn't know if you did that or not, so I didn't want to like offer
No,
it.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is my whole goal, to be able to do that. But unfortunately, it's not going anywhere right now. But hopefully, eventually, it will. But yeah, I am the person that I'll come in and investigate, but then I will also, once we figure out exactly what's going on, or as close to exactly as possible, then I will do everything I can to help you, cleanse your house. And, if it's something that is beyond my knowledge, I know somebody who knows, or I know someone who knows someone. I mean, so, and this is something that a lot of investigators do wrong. Do not be afraid to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't going to think any less of you as an investigator if you don't know what to do. You need to admit because by not admitting it, you can actually make it worse. If you try to do something, you can actually make it 10 times worse than it was. So like, if you don't know, that's fine. Nobody's going to think less of you. Now, you understand what's going on in the home. Now, you know that you don't personally know what to do for this person, but I promise you know somebody who does, or like I said, somebody who knows somebody. Like, I built myself a little network of people through the store who know more than I do. If I can't figure it out, why guarantee that somebody I've met through Goddess Elite will have the answer?
And I think that's what's so important about having just like, and that's what I appreciate so much about all of the readers and the different mediums and everybody else at the store, is like different strokes for different folks, first of all, right? So like, some people, like certain readers will kind of vibe with certain people more. So I want to say that, like, everybody's excellent, but like, that's why there's so many different people, because we offer so many different services, and different types of energy and different ways that we deliver things, and whatever's going to resonate with you. But also, like with what Richie said, like different skill sets. So there's always going to be somebody where it's like, okay, if you don't know this, like, let me get you to somebody who does, because I know this person, and this person has dealt with a situation like this before. And that's not only relating to the paranormal, that's relating to if you come into the store for help, even from like associates. So like, somebody comes in and they say, they're looking for love magic and stuff like that. If Venus is at the store, I'm not going to, I'm going to grab them and, have you speak to them, because you'll be able to get a little bit more information from them. They're like the expert in it, right? Whereas if it's astrology, somebody's probably going to grab me. So I think that's just like important, just in kind of the metaphysical field and paranormal, is just being willing to like admit when you're in over your head, ask for help, and you'll probably learn something in the process. So.
Mm-hmm. Chair. It's like, don't you hate it when a ghost steals the breath from your lungs as you're just trying to go about your day? Me was meddling, probably, were really shouldn't have been, but
A minor inconvenience.
Right. Vicky says, I once dreamed of a violin suspended in midair that was playing itself, and I woke up terrified. Very loud sounds or music in dreams get me, and I love music. Huh, that's interesting. Scary in dreams, but you love it when you're awake. That's a whole big rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah. I wonder, do you have a relative that played music and stuff? Maybe it is a spirit trying to get your attention. Sometimes like it just comes through like symbols like that. So yeah, I was just curious. Yeah. if you hear this and you're still here, comment.
So if anybody would like to share their stories and you don't mind us talking about it live, you can send your story to info@goddesselite.com. Let us know if it's okay to share your name or not. Otherwise, we'll just say anonymous submission. Real person, we just won't say who. You know, and don't be afraid to share. Other people might have similar instances, and it's good to know that maybe you're not the only one. You're not crazy. So feel free to email those in, info@goddesselite.com. And let us know if to share your name or not. Because, you know, anonymous chair. There's only one chair. You know, because honestly, I'm kind of running out of cool, spooky shit to talk about. Nothing much happens around me, really. If anything, here lately in the last few years, it's like it avoids me. Even at the House of Wills, like they will stand at the other end of the atrium. And I'm like, why? I know you're over there. Why?
That's hilarious to me. You put up a don't F with me vibe to like living, dead, doesn't matter. Just back up.
The last time my friend Kayla got to go with me to Tucson, we were going to visit family friends of ours that years ago, they moved from Parma to Tucson, little girls, family friends, right? And they have been having some issues. And in talking with them, I'm like, yeah, I can see some stuff going on in the one bedroom, especially where the two little girls having the most problems going on. And so as we're turning into the like housing area, I see like this black shadow thing come like zipping towards the car and like around the corner. And I'm like, I'm like, back up a minute. And I'm like, I'm like, where'd it go? She's like, what did you see? And I showed it to her, or I described it to her. She's like, I didn't see that. And I'm like, street light, whatever. We get there and I'm better at kind of seeing like what had been happening versus like right at that moment. But I'm just like, it feels empty. And she's like, there's nothing here there. And she looked at me, she's like, it ran.
Oh my God.
Coming and it ran. And I'm like, so why?
I love that.
Why? I'm like, well, I can't stay here forever. But let's do some things to make things better. But that was about the time that I started noticing that it's like nothing really happens, you know, around. And yes, I do wear a Marianne Quincy, but I mean, I was 3 streets away when that thing ran. So it wasn't like there. And I've been in the House of Wills. I have purposely taken it off, took it out to the car, set it in the glove compartment and came in and sat back down at the seance table and was like, now what? And they're like, no.
We're still not. Sorry.
Yeah. We don't like you. We don't want to sit at your table. So, exactly, Cher. She's like, it just adds to your credibility that you don't always have some crazy in life, right? I don't. It's very boring. And Vicky said, well, several aunts long gone played piano, but they weren't scary, but nobody played violin.
Very interesting.
And Christine says she's going to send a cool chicken story. Not scary, but pretty cool. We'll still read it. We don't care. We'll read it out loud. We'll with that. I'm going to unmute Richie again, so it might get scratchy and a little echoey. I think the car throws the acoustics off, maybe a little bit.
I don't know, maybe.
But we're getting close to our hour-ish. And Emily, you're in the store reading today. You've got a little bit of time before you have like a block party kind of coming in.
Yes. Yeah, so come see me.
Chris is like, we need a GE House of Wills group tour. We might
Please.
now that the floors seemingly are reinforced and nobody's going to fall into the basement and sub-basement. That is scary in the hospital dollar amount wise, not paranormal wise.
Mm-hmm.
So any last minute questions for any of us? Otherwise, we'll kind of wrap up, figure out what our topic is for next week. Because the one that I thought was going to suggest as I was researching at 4:00 this morning, I'm like, well, this is all bunk. We'll talk about this one.
So I want to say, just real quick, I do have this book I wrote. We haven't talked about it for a long time. I haven't told you guys about it for a long time. It's called Journey into the Unknown, My Experience with All Things Paranormal. It's available on Amazon. If you want a signed copy, you can let Melissa know and she'll let me know and we'll work it out. There's a bunch of other experiences in there because up to the point that I had that experience and walked away, I had worked in several haunted buildings as a security officer, had several encounters as an investigator, and looking back, I now understand that my psychic abilities were actually in full swing then. I just didn't have control of them because I didn't know what the hell was going on. So that's part of what messed me up back then. And I think that's part of why it's so hard for me to get back there now. But I've had a lot of stuff happen. I wrote the book, so you can pick that up. At some point, hopefully, I'll be back in the store with them. I was supposed to go to the last psychic fair, but ended up with such a bad head cold that I couldn't even. I could barely function enough to text Melissa and tell her I wasn't going to be there. So, but hopefully I'll be back to the store soon with it. But, and I don't know, what was I going to say? Oh, goodness me. Oh, if you do want to see the video of me going off on the ghost, it's Journey into the Unknown with Richie Grubbs on YouTube. That video's on there, and I have a series going right now called Journey into Legend, where I'm covering cryptid and mythical creatures. I will be getting that back into swinging later this week, but you can watch the video of me cussing out whatever spirit attached itself to me and reclaiming myself. Sadly, you're not going to hear the whistle. I'm sorry to spoil that for you. I listened to that video on every volume I could possibly get it on. I listened to it through headphones. The whistle wasn't there and I was disappointed, but I definitely heard it.
So
Yeah.
Chair is asking, is there any place where ghosts avoid particular plant or rock type in the area that keeps them out? My understanding, and I haven't seen a rock yet that really keeps ghosts away. Since earthbounds need energy, they kind of just avoid empty places where humans are not. So, wish there was a quick, easy fix for that. And then Karen's like, the living room. Yeah, they avoid the living room. Then I'm like, any room I'm back into.
Yeah,
when is Marianne coming on YouTube? Marianne and I chat at least once a week. I don't know if and when she'll ever go back to doing her YouTube pieces again. Part of her retirement. The podcast isn't completely shut and gone forever. there's still like a crack in that opening. I try to pry it open every so often without annoying her. But she's like, nope, not right now. I'm like, okay. So, yeah, I don't know when she's coming back to YouTube. And I'm still trying to keep the podcast like alive, still on hiatus. So, you know, maybe drop her an email every now and then, be like, we missed the podcast, and see what she says.
I would like to talk to her on here because I've listened to her, and her and I do have some difference in opinions, and I would love to discuss that with her.
Yeah.
And I just want to go with this comment that I'm reading right here. Fun fact, I brought that up, and Melissa said that she never heard of that. So definitely got to get her an education on that. But I would love to talk about La Llorona.
I mean, have you heard of it, Emily?
I have heard of the Lady in White. Did not realize La Llorona was like
the same one.
Yeah, but
she is a lady in white. She's a weeping lady. But her roots are in Latin culture. Like it's like the Latin American version of a weeping lady. But she actually is scarier than any weeping lady story I've ever heard. Like, she creeps me completely and all the way and utterly out. Like,
well, maybe that's something we'll have to read up on and maybe speak about.
There's very few things in this world, in the paranormal world, that I say I would not want to encounter, and she is definitely one of them. I don't want anything to do with, like, don't come near me.
I just picture this being like the Karen of a paranormal world. Like, shut up. What are you complaining about and crying about now? Shut up.
Like, just move on. You cannot speak to my manager.
I was getting ready to say, the manager's not here.
I am the manager. Now what?
See a little swirl. You know, you see that'll be talking to the
Take my glasses off. The manager's speaking.
You know what the problem is, Melissa? I can actually see you standing face to face with La Llorona and saying that. While she's screaming, trying to mess you up, you're just gonna be like, yeah, and
yeah, boo-hoo.
We all got a top story. And
you can go now.
Yeah. Well.
Therapy. Go to it.
Let's do some shadow work, La Llorona.
She only contacts the ghost of managers, right? Yeah.
That's funny.
Chris says, I was terrified of her as a kid. I grew up with her legend.
Oh, interesting.
And see, Melanie, I love this, that Melanie, when Marianne and I were doing our Wednesdays, like, she's forever like, you got to come to Georgia, and she brings it to here. I think we're more likely to make a trip.
Yeah, I've been actually wanting to go to Savannah forever. It's on my bucket list. So
give
me time.
I have a friend really close to there. She's been trying to get me to come because she's got a I don't know if she's still there, but she used to work with the ghost hunting crew out of a haunted theater in a city very close to Savannah. So she's been trying to get me to come out there for that. And I'm just like, well, you know, I mean, when do I have the time to go anywhere except to work and to bed?
I mean, I've only been to Fort Benning for like a few days, so, you know.
Yeah, might have to make a trip.
Yeah, spend some quality time in Savannah. We would have to like plan where we're going, where we're staying, what we're doing.
Yeah, like a whole thing. It'd be a whole thing.
Because like Chair already has the castles lined up and the trip to Ireland. So
I'm down. Like, I'm there. I
have a passport. We'll travel. And I've got like the ID the driver's license in Ohio for airplane and travel.
I
so.
don't have a passport, but we can sneak me in somehow, I feel like.
Westlake Library, or you're small, enough, you're shorter, you would fit in a suitcase.
I was
Little
gonna say,
carry on.
I was getting ready to say Emily's small enough to put in the
Yeah.
carry-on, so.
I could probably pick the suitcase of Emily up and carry
Exactly.
it. Versus me going in the suitcase, it's going nowhere.
You get put in one of the compartments up top.
Like, stop talking.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to pay for your seat if you don't be quiet.
I don't think Emily knows how to be quiet, though.
I don't. I really don't. It's the Gemini rising in me. I can't help it.
Emily, does this bag smell like chloroform? Smell it for me. Take a nap. Take a nap.
Yeah. Go to sleep. We'll see you in 8 hours.
That sounds nice, actually.
I'm jealous. I want a nap.
Well, see, I know that because I was looking, because I am terrified at the prospect of flying, but I'm going with Holly and all of them next year. So I looked, how long does it take to get from Cleveland Airport to the airport in Dublin, Ireland, if we do the straight flight like we're going to? And it says 7 to 8 hours. I'm like, okay.
That's not bad.
I don't know how I'm going to survive it, but I'm pretty sure I will.
I would have thought it would have been longer, honestly.
Just take some valerian when you get on. Okay, no one else but Richie listen to this. No one else follow this because I'm not a doctor. But take some valerian and you'll just have an 8-hour nap.
NyQuil.
I have been.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I was in the Police Explorers, and I was terrified of the idea of flying to Colorado, which I ended up not doing anyway. But one of the kids, his aunt told me, she said, "Baby, you know what I do?" And I was like, "Uh-oh." I was like, "Auntie's talking. What you do?" She's like, "I just went to the doctor and I got me a sample of Xanax." She's like, "Baby, I washed that down with a shot of Jack and I was good for the whole flight." I'm sitting here like, I bet you were.
Again, no one else listen to this advice.
I'm like, I'm not doing that because I want to make sure that I wake up when we land.
Yeah, the flight attendant's like,
yeah, pick.
Yeah, you'll end up back in Cleveland because you didn't get off the plane in Ireland. That sucks. I mean, not gonna lie, I almost got on the plane to go to Honolulu instead of coming back to Cleveland.
Yeah, I couldn't blame you. I really couldn't.
Like, I will go to Honolulu. It's Frontier. We'll just ignore the different boarding pass and hope there's seats, and it'll all be good. So we will look into Chris's suggestion, and if you guys have any else suggestions, drop them in comments or email. If you don't mind us sharing your story, even if you want us to leave your name out of the story, you can send it into info@goddesselite.com. I'm all over it, Chair's like. But we are at our hour, and Emily, I know you got to get ready to come read. Richie, you've got things to pick up there at the store, and I have things to go do in the store on my day off today for a little while, and then then hopefully a day off full of laundry. Can't wait.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yes, join us next Wednesday at 10, and hopefully we'll have our topic announced before that morning.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, guys.